How to elope in national parks. So, national parks are beautiful, and I personally believe that they are the perfect marriage between this like really rustic, I shouldn't say rustic, I should say, like rugged backcountry elopement experience where you're hiking and it's super private and there's nobody around and the views are incredible with the element of accessibility and all the trails are maintained really beautifully and there's roads to park your car, there's bathrooms, there's lodging with heating and air conditioning. So national parks are incredible. I think that they are something that serves these elopement couples very well, but there is a process involved in getting married in a national park. There are a lot of rules and stipulations on both the side of the couple as well as any vendors that they may hire. So the purpose of this video is just to kind of do a quick rundown of the process of working and you getting married legally in a national park. I will start with this disclaimer. I'm not a I don't work for the National Park Service or really any federal conservation service. I never have. I have worked and done photography projects in national parks, both before and during COVID. So I have some leverage and knowledge there. I've gone through the permitting process. I've scouted places. I've talked to park rangers. I've gone through it, entrance fees, all that good stuff. But I would not say that I'm an expert on this. So if you're a photographer watching, maybe you're a couple, you've been through this process before, and you want to maybe like highlight anything that I'm saying or add to it or modify it, please leave the comments below. I really want this to be like a place, a resource for couples, and I want them to be able to see a really high level process of what all of this, like all of the steps entail in getting married in a national park. So leave your comments and suggestions below. Okay, so I think the first step is to hire your photographer, not even to figure out what national park you want to elope in or picking a date or all of that. And I say choosing and hiring your elopement photographer for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that most elopement photographers, myself included, are very knowledgeable about this process. We've been to national parks both for fun and for work. We've gone through the permitting process. We have a very wide network of other contacts and resources that we can reach out to. We may have personal connections with employees at these national parks. So we are a wealth of knowledge and experience that you can kind of lean on throughout this process. And I think that if you go into the elopement planning process with this idea that you have to do it all yourself, it's going to be really overwhelming. So find somebody who's going to be your advocate throughout this process. Find somebody who's knowledgeable and who is going to maybe help you find your perfect location, who's going to work with your availability and your desired dates and all that good stuff. The other reason I say that is because a lot of times our travel schedules are determined like a year or two in advance. I know I have a bunch of places that I'm going this year. And so sometimes you can almost determine your location based, maybe you find like your dream photographer and you see that they're going to a bunch of really cool spots. You can kind of have that open conversation with them about like, when are you available? What parks are you going to? What the experience is going to look like. And you can almost like find your location based off of their travel schedule. Sometimes you can save a little bit of money that way too. But more likely than not, they're going somewhere really amazing that they've already researched, that they're already really familiar with, and they can be really helpful throughout the planning process. So I would suggest that actually being your first step. Your second step is finding your perfect location. So this is something that I go on more in other IGTV episodes and blogs, is how to find your perfect location, how to plan an elopement. I talk a little bit about this in that video as well. So if you want to learn more, I would hop over to that video and watch that as well. But finding your location, I think that you should do that before you find, or you should find your location and choose your location before you even choose your date. So oftentimes there's parks like Glacier National Park or Yosemite National Park that are in the mountains. And, you know, let's like hypothetically say that you're dreaming of an April elopement and you really want to go to Yosemite National Park. Um, I would say that you can, it's open, but probably only the valley. You're probably not going to be able to get up to uh, Glacier Point or Taft Point or a lot of the higher elevation regions around the park, because the roads are closed. It's under a couple feet of snow. Same thing for like Glacier National Park, which is one of the most beautiful top rated parks in the country. There's a very small window. It's in the Rockies, basically in Canada. So there's a very small window of time between like June and October where the park is fully operating, functioning, and you can access all parts of the park. And even June through October is like, there's some margin there for rapid closure, for snowfall or ice. So if you have like your mind set on a date first and then try to pick your location, I think that you're going to have a more difficult time. I think that if you're really going after experience, the more important thing here is finding a place where the weather is going to be good. Going to a place like Joshua Tree in August, like I don't even know that Joshua Tree should be open in August because it's just so hot and unbearable. Like August is a popular month for weddings, but I would not suggest somebody going to Joshua Tree in August. I would maybe push that off to like December or January or February, March, because of the heat. So I think that if you're eloping, your priority is experience overall. So pick your location first and then worry about your date. And you can research, find weekdays that work for your personal availability and where the park is going to have good weather. There aren't going to be a lot of functions going on, maybe a lot of visitors, and your elopement photographer should be able to help you with that as well. So you have hired an amazing photographer at this point. You have chosen the park that you want to elope at. Well, I should kind of like highlight on that, like how to choose the park. So how to choose your perfect location, like I said a couple minutes ago, is something that I'm going to highlight in a separate conversation, a separate IGTV, because I think that alone is its own conversation. But bottom line is, I think that for just a moment, you need to kind of dismiss the idea of any boundaries. So just kind of put aside anything that's keeping you from eloping in your dream location and just dream for a minute. I think you need to do that. So your ideal weather conditions, the activities that you want to do on your elopement day. Don't be afraid to fly somewhere. Don't be afraid to go to a state or a place you've never been before. I think that that's actually another conversation I want to talk about. It's just the beauty of traveling for your elopement and why it's so special. Don't be afraid to travel. But I know me personally, I send a questionnaire to all of my eloping couples who need help finding their location. And it's like a really in-depth location questionnaire. It asks like all kinds of questions about, your health and your fitness level. If you want to hike, are you experienced in high elevation? Because Glacier National Park has some parts of really high elevation. You can get sick. Same with Yosemite. So are you comfortable in high elevation? Are you comfortable to hike? Would you prefer something in the fall or the spring? How many guests are you bringing? What's your ideal weather condition? Do you like it hot? Do you like it cool? Do you like it mild? Are you snow people? Do you like to ski? Or are you more summer people, like to camp and kayak and hike outside? So I ask all these different questions, and then from your answers, I'll put together a really detailed location guide with a couple different options and like some example itineraries for each of these locations. That way you're choosing a location based off of your priorities and what you want the day to look and feel like, as opposed to maybe around a date or my availability or something like that. So And I know a lot of elopement photographers have the same process where they will help you find your truly perfect location. Probably, I bet you it's something that you've never even thought of or considered before. So keep an open mind with that. So again, at this point, you've hired your photographer, you've chosen your location, you've chosen a date based off of your location. Now it's time to talk about places to stay and finding place to stay. So there are some pros and cons to staying inside the park. I'm going to fix this a little bit because I'm kind of like jarred. There we go. There's some pros and cons to staying inside the park. The good thing about staying inside the park is that you are guaranteed admission to the park. So there's usually no additional entrance fee or anything like that. You're guaranteed a parking spot. And the places to stay are usually really clean, really beautiful, accessible, really close to the location that you're going to be exchanging your vows and celebrating. But they're usually really expensive. They're usually really busy because everyone wants to stay inside the park so they can just walk outside of their hotel room and start hiking. They don't have to drive anywhere or find parking, which can be a pain. So it's expensive, it's crowded. Usually you don't have a full suite unless you want to spend a ton of money and get like a chalet or something. If you are looking to be a little more savvy and do some grocery shopping, have a full kitchen, maybe have some, laundry accommodations, maybe multiple bedrooms if you're going with a group of people, I would really highly recommend looking at Airbnb or VRBO and looking at alternative options outside the park. I know that even for like Yosemite, it seems like, staying like an hour away just seems like so much. Like now we have to drive an hour, but the drive is really beautiful. And that hour drive goes by really quickly. And I know at least when I was there, like it was a drive, like it felt like a drive, but the hour to the park and then the hour through the mountains went by really quick. So consider that. Consider finding locations that are outside the park. So you have a place to stay. Now it's time to look for other vendors. So hair, makeup artists, florists, caterers, chefs, activities, things to do, beefing out that itinerary. National parks require a lot of permits. So kind of like what I was saying before, where it's kind of like here and there right now, and this video may very well be dated in a couple weeks or a couple months, depending on the lawsuit situation that's going on with the National Park Service for commercial videography. But most vendors that are coming in will need to get a permit. Photographers, videographers. If you're hiring a florist, know that most national parks and Leave No Trace is actually a topic that I'm going to talk about in another video, but most national parks have rules against bringing in anything non-native or setting up big elaborate displays. So do your research, ask your questions. Again, this is where it's really helpful to have an advocate for you to who has this experience. Maybe they know of, hair and makeup artists, florists, etc., that are close to the national park or have had experience working in them before, but just know that the permitting process is pretty much across the board for anybody coming and going and working in and outside the national park. So time of year and time of day, I'm not going to talk about this too much because I kind of already did, but time of year, you need to consider that places of high elevation are probably going to be really cold in the winters and fall and spring. So you're probably going to want to stick in the summer. And then desert is kind of like the flip of that. You really don't want to go to the desert in the summer because it's really hot. And then time of day. So if you are thinking of eloping in 2:00 in the afternoon, just know that these parks are really crowded. So I always suggest either sunrise or sunset for elopement times in national parks. And finding a weekday as well, because weekends like Fridays through Sundays can be really busy. So that's all I have to say. I hope I covered it all. I think that getting married in a national park is a great idea, and these rules and stipulations should not keep you from it. So if you have any other questions or comments or modifications of what I said, please leave them below. I'll try to keep this updated as things progress with the national parks as well. Thanks.